Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'i wa mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the Green Hajj webinar today. Alhamdulillah, all praise to Allah that we gather here today and to talk about a very important thing of this time of the year for all Muslim Ummah is the season of Hajj, and how can we do our practice on performing Hajj at the same time to also care for our environment. So this session is going to be recorded, and inshallah I will upload it in YouTube afterwards. So if anybody missed this session, they're still going to be able to view it later, inshallah. And so before I start, I'm going to introduce our wonderful panelists here. We are so we're so fortunate that we have our all our speakers line up here, and they're all very busy people, but they make the time for us to be to share their experience and their knowledge with us today. So first of all, I'm Nana Firman. I'm the outreach Muslim outreach coordinator from Green Faith and also the co-founder of Global Muslim Climate Network. And we have the list of our wonderful panelists today. Dr. Husna Ahmad from London, all the way from London, and she's the founder of Global One, which is an organization to empower women on sustainability, and also she's the author of the Green Guide to Hajj. So please check it out. I put the link on this slide. And also from all the way from Indonesia, from Jakarta, Indonesia, is Dr. Fachruddin Mangunjaya. So he's Walaikum Salam. So he's the chairperson for the Islamic Studies in National University in Jakarta, and also he's part of the author of the Islamic Declaration on Global Climate Change. Check it out if you have not familiar with that. And also he's one of the initiator in Indonesia to have the Green Hajj apps. So please, after this webinar, check out our the apps. It's very useful, and we still need like inputs from others who's using it at the moment. So there's always a place for improvement. And then also we have our two brothers who are going to perform Hajj this year. Brother Saffet Catovic from New Jersey, who's the founder of New Jersey Green Muslims. And also he's a member of the Islamic Society of North America Green Masjid Committee. And another one is Ibrahim Abdul-Matin, the author of the book Green Deen, What Islam Teaches About Protecting the Planet. Everyone should get that book. It's amazing book. But unfortunately, Brother Ibrahim just texted me, just sent me SMS just an hour ago. His flight was delayed, so he's supposed to be on land, already landed by this time. That's why he agreed to be on this in this webinar. But unfortunately, his flight was delayed, so he's still up on the air, so he couldn't join us. But he's joining us in spirit, and I know he's very seriously on trying to practice Green Deen on his Hajj. So let me just give a little bit of background why we really have this is already too long that we already postponed this conversation. because I was browsing before, like before starting this webinar, whether there is a webinar on Green Hajj, like, previously. Obviously, there is none. So this is the first webinar ever on greening the Hajj. So please bear with me. I'm still like trying to figure it out how is the best way to present this. But I'm, like without a doubt, I have a very wonderful lineup of panelists. So, like one of our faith commitment is actually very critical in how we perceive the world around us, and also like as our responsibility as the citizen upon this earth, because we see like ecological degradation has become existential issue confronting the natural order, which is not only part of social and economic problems, but also most importantly is a moral and ethical issue. So every human activities from farming to construction, even to check our email, affects the environment. And the scientists call that ecological footprint. And they use the measure in global hectares, which is the land needed to provide resources for human activities, and then also how to observe their waste. As you can see in these slides that, like every activities that we do is always, we need a lot of resources from our nature, as well as how the waste is being absorbed later on. So the more resources a person or a society consume, the larger is its ecological footprint. So as our ecological footprint continues to exceed the Earth's capacity.
I'm sorry, I'm on a phone call right now. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Brother Saffet. So as we exceed the Earth capacity, we overdraw from the future. As you can see on this graphic, that we need 1.5 Earths to sustain our current consumption pattern. So, as a Muslim, we have this in the Quran. Allah said that to us to walk gently upon this earth, meaning that we're not supposed to put pressure to this earth by having so high ecological footprint as well as pollution. And the Prophet said that this earth is green and beautiful, and we are appointed as the steward, as the Khalifa upon this. So as the Khalifa upon this earth, like what do? We're supposed to walk gently on this earth. So last year, Green Faith and other different and diverse partners from different and diverse faiths have launched this multi-faith sustainable living initiative during COP 23 in Germany, in Bonn. Because we see this is our responsibility also as the faith communities around the world to also change our lifestyle, the way we live, our consumption pattern, because we all share from our faith teachings that we're supposed to take care of this earth. So why we focus on the faith communities? Because obviously in Pew Research, based on Pew Research, 84 to 85 of the world population still consider themselves as belong to a certain faith or spiritualities. And we can see across the board, every cities, every municipality on the planet has one or many of house of worship. And in the Muslim world, how many masajids we have in every city is probably like too many. And so then, and also we have so many religious leaders. So this is the greatest potential of leadership in transforming individual as well as community on their consumption habits. And there is no better communities who can do that than the faith community. So we launched the campaign called Living the Change, and please check it out. Like, there is a website on it, www.livingthechange.net. And we approach on these three pillars based on the scientific studies that can make a significant difference on reducing our ecological footprint. First is our diet, the way we consume our food, and then our transportation, how the mobility for us, that, you know, like, especially for us who are busy and always moving around, we use like cars a lot probably, or also like transportation with airplanes a lot. So then, you know, like, this is a reflection for us, like how is our mobility, and also the energy that we use. And everybody, I think, know this, because most of our energy are still using fossil fuel resources. So we approach this change with the taking a commitment from religious and spiritual leaders, and also we explore the narratives using the teaching from each faith, and also like especially for Muslim, we're using the narratives from you know, like, from our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Sunnah, and the tradition that we already have for us. And so that's what we are in the middle of this campaign at the moment. So like, I would like to invite all of you on those who are viewing this webinar also to join us, and please check out the website. So these are some of the example how people can do their commitment, and these are just a few examples, and then also it's measurable for how much ecological footprints you can reduce in this case, you know, like, from just changing one behavior. So inshallah, we'll see this, and this is going to be very exciting, because we're not just doing this because it's cool to be green, or like, you know, it's sustainability is, you know, like, it's the trend at the moment, but this is incumbent upon us as a Muslim, that we are asked to care for our planet. So this is part of our ibadat also. So talking about that, as I mentioned earlier, that this few weeks from now, like, many of our Muslims brothers and sisters from all corners of the world will be performing one of the pillars of Islam, the Hajj, which is an annual pilgrimage to Mecca, and it is mandatory for you know, for all Muslims, adult Muslim, to carry that pilgrimage at least once in a lifetime, if they are able physically and financially to take the journey. And the Hajj is actually the Hajj gathering itself is considered to be the largest gathering of people in the world, because it's always like around 2 million people, but I think the last few years is nearly 3 million people performing Hajj each year. So with that, we also wanted to take a look, like, when we perform Hajj nowadays in today's condition, it's also meaning that there is an enormous environmental footprint. And during Hajj, we see a lot of quantities of waste generated, and which needs appropriately to be collected, handled, and managed. And also we see like the issue of the water usage, because there's so many people needs to make wudu at the same time, and also wastewater like treatment, like what we use with the wastewater. And also, like, besides that, the transportation issues, be it in the Hajj itself, as well as how to get into Hajj. And another thing is like the big issue is the plastic bottles that is piling up in during Hajj, and also like the food packaging as well as the food waste. So this is, like something that we need to address, because as we all aware that Hajj is a purification ritual. So then, like we cannot be like trying to purify ourselves, whereas like we see a lot of waste everywhere. So we want to take this momentum to discuss specifically on how can we green our Hajj procession ritual and practice, and at the same time caring for the environment and as our responsibility as the Khalifa upon this earth. So with that, I would like to invite my first panelist, Dr. Husna Ahmad, who is the author of Green Guide for Hajj, and she can share with us how did it become a Green Hajj guide, and also like what has been done in the last few years. Dr. Husna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nana. Nana, you got my web. Oh, you got the PowerPoint. Thank you so much. First of all, I'd just like to thank Nana for her presentation. I think we can be at the forefront of climate change when we're able to explain how Muslims can make a difference. At present, people are still thinking it's the governments and the superpowers who can tackle the problem, but we as individuals are unaware of our own powers as consumers, and that small step changes in our habits can bring about a wave of change for the good of the planet, as Nana explained in her presentation, which was fantastic. Simple things such as reducing our consumption of meat, walking rather than taking our cars, curbing our consumerist urges, recycling, insulation in our homes, and thus reducing fuel consumption. We need to remind ourselves of the Islamic principles of mizan, the balance, and stewardship. The earth is a trust that God has given us. We can't abuse that trust. Surah Al-Ahzab states very clearly, we did indeed offer the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to undertake it, being afraid thereof. But man undertook it. He was indeed unjust and foolish. So in terms of the Green Guide to the Hajj, this is the book, the Green Guide to the Hajj. The Hajj is the fifth pillar of Islam, as you can see on the presentation, and mention of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when we just resonated for Abraham, the site of the house, saying, do not associate anything with me and purify my house. For those who perform tawaf and those who stand in prayer and those who bow and prostrate and proclaim to the people, the Hajj, they will come to you on foot and on every lean camel. They will come from every distant pass. Now, the Green Guide to the Hajj is something that came out of conversations with the Alliance of Religious Conservation, which is an organization that's been running for about 20 odd years. And it was part of a larger project called the Green Pilgrimage Network. And it set out a very ambitious plan for the guide. So this guide was something that was produced in 2011. It was launched in Assisi in Italy. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
And I think, although it was very ambitious, we wanted to do a lot more with the guide. Unfortunately, that hasn't become a reality. We have translated it into Arabic, into Bengali, into Bahasa, Indonesian, Bahasa Malaysian. And I'm very hopeful that, people like Brother Fachruddin, for instance, the work that he's done with it is something that's very, very, very wonderful. And I'm hoping that, things will progress. Can we have the next slide? Why Hajj? Now, you're the best nation produced as an example for mankind. You enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong, and believe in Allah. The Holy Prophet Muhammad said, the earth is green and beautiful, and Allah has appointed you his stewards over it. Next slide. Now, the convergence of huge numbers of people, between 2 million and 3 million now in the Hajj is not a joke. It's a huge number. Now, with more than 50 independent Muslim countries and a worldwide population of around 1.7 billion Muslims, the effects of environmental degradation and climate change are already adversely affecting the Muslim communities. Now, although Saudi Arabia, as the host nation for the Hajj, will always play a very important role in the greening agenda, it's important to note that the pilgrims from around Muslim, from around the world, from both from Muslim countries and from the diaspora communities living in the West, and Muslim governments, we have our own reasons where we should be taking more care of what we do. If I tell you a little bit about what Saudi Arabia is doing, today Saudi Arabia's economy requires energy at an intensity level 2 times the world average, and domestic energy demand is estimated to be more than double by 2035. So Saudi Arabia is trying hard to bring about solar power, solar energy to the kingdom with a 50 billion push to promote solar and wind energy. And it's installed the Mecca Metro for pilgrims. They embarked on a $109 billion solar energy industry and are investing in an infrastructure project which will, hopefully improve the transport links to Mecca and Medina. And in recent years, the Saudi government has placed a 50% reduction quota on nationals and 20% reduction quota on international pilgrims because they've undertaken, the major extension, which is, almost complete in the Kaaba. And although this means a lot of disruption for the pilgrims, I think it's a positive from an environmentalist point of view. I think it's a positive thing. Can I have the next? Because you can see what's left after the pilgrimage, it's incredible in terms of the amount of wastage and amount of 100 million plastic bottles which are left. In terms of after the Hajj, it takes a month for the Saudi, local municipality to clear up all the trash and all the rubbish, that's there. So here you can see what the rituals are that pilgrims will undertake. And what's significant is that during the Hajj, it's not just, that people can take, most of the things here have to be taken at the same time. So you have the convergence of people moving from one place to the other, at, simultaneously at the same time. So it is, very, very significant in terms of how they take care of the environment and how, they conduct themselves. The next one. So these are the values and principles of Islam. We've got conservation in terms of conservation of the environment, submission to Allah, vicegerency on earth. And I think, when we submit to Allah, we need to realize that our submission isn't just in the ritualistic side. It's also about how we as individuals improve our humanity, the way we behave to other humans, as well as to the environment and to animals and nature. Vicegerency on earth. Vicegerency on earth, what does that mean? What is the implications of being a vicegerent on earth? How are we being careful in terms of our footprints, our footsteps, in terms of balanced approach to life? How are we reaching the mizan? How are we able to, control our sort of drive towards development, as nations, as in terms of the world? How are we able to combat that against what's happening in terms of the impact on, the climate? And you can see climate change is here, it's upon us already. How do we try to get that balance? I think, what we don't realize as individuals and as people who are either leaders or who have the voice of, the people and are able to have impact on our governments, is that we do have an ability in terms of our advocacy. I think, what Nana and her organizations do is absolutely incredible. And, we need Nana's organization to be much more focused and brought forward, because I think, this is the thing for the future generations. We really need them to understand that they need to have a balance in the approach to life. And we need to recognize that, this earth, we're in transit. We're not here. It's not a permanent state. So everything that we do in terms of our intention, our niyyah, in terms of how we step on the earth, how every day the different actions that we take, the small habits that we make, the small changes in our habits. For instance, simple things like, now the weather in London, for instance, is fantastic. Drying our clothes outside, in terms of how we insulate our homes, in terms of how we behave towards other people, how we prepare our food. Because in terms of the wastage of food, that is something incredible. Trying to have less meat, eating meat less. All of these things are really, really important. And accountability for our actions. We need to be aware that our actions have an impact. For instance, when we're on the Hajj, how we throw away our rubbish, how we don't have our bottles to fill up at the different watering points, these sort of things are really, really important. And I think, once Muslims realize that it's our duty as Muslims to be very, very conscious of our environment and not think that this is something that the government or the nations wherever we're staying or it's someone else's responsibility. When we take on the responsibility ourselves and realize that we have to train our children, we have to train our next generations, we have to, our communities, we have to be role models ourselves, that's when, things will start changing. Can we have the next slide? So the Green Hajj Guide, it's asking pilgrims to purchase environmentally friendly products and services, and encouraging pilgrims to reduce waste and consumption, advising pilgrims to live environmentally friendly lifestyles after the pilgrimage too. I think, the Hajj is something that's so significant. It's one of the pillars of Islam. When someone goes on Hajj, I had the great pleasure of doing Hajj in 1999 and then went back again for Umrah last year, and it was so much change. I mean, so much has changed in almost 20 years, But I think what we need to realize that the consumer power, we can demand so much, when we're booking our flights, the hotels that we book with, you've got, I don't think we've got a single eco-friendly hotel in Mecca or Medina. So, we could really start, advocating for things like that. And then, the intentions that we make when we're going on the Hajj, when we come back, do we just think, okay, that's it, it's done, we've done the Hajj now we go back to reality? I think that's not what we want to do. We want to be, thought leaders, and we want to start, changing our habits. And, it starts with the individual, I know that, for instance, Rumi, the great poet Rumi said that, once I wanted to change the world, and, when I was young, and when I grew older and wiser, I realized that I need to first change myself. So I think we all need to change ourselves first, and then we can have impacts in terms of, others. So can we have the next one? So the recommendations that came out of this, Green Guide to the Hajj is that Muslims should remember that the environment is Allah's creation and must be respected. All creation is in a state of submission to Allah and has a relationship with Allah. All of nature is a sign from Allah, and humans are stewards of the planet and have a custodial relationship with the environment. All forms of life possess rights and duties. I think these are things that are absolutely crucial and critical. We, shouldn't think that, we have no connection with our surroundings, that we can do what we want, and we can, in terms of development, for instance, we can develop at a rate which is and follow, for instance, in the Muslim world, places like Indonesia, case in point, shouldn't be looking to industrialize in the way that America or the UK and others, Europe has done. We need to think very carefully about how we can develop, and in a way which is within a balance and which is in an eco-friendly way. And is using clean energy and green energy, because the impact on health, people's health, from pollution and air pollution, particularly in a lot of the cities in the world, is just ridiculous, so we really need to be thinking about that as well. And I think, the Hajj is a fantastic starting point for us as Muslims to really change the way we look at the world and the way we move forward in terms of how we live our lives, and really try to inculcate the things that Nana was talking about in terms of individual aspects, small steps that we can change, because it's through small steps that then the bigger movements and bigger changes can come about, because we all need to be on the same page first of all and then move forward. the recommendations again. We can go to the next page. So I've already mentioned reduced waste, go solar, in terms of the way we travel, advocacy, which I think we're all doing, green buildings such as mosques, cities, and festivals. My masjid in North London is a green mosque. It's becoming a green mosque, alhamdulillah. So it's these sort of things that are really, really important. The next one. And finally, verily never will Allah change the condition of the people until they change what is in themselves. And this is Quran 13:11. So I just want to show a couple of other things. This is in Indonesia. We did a Green Hajj exhibition with Brother Fachruddin and myself there, as you can see, after we had launched the Green Guide to the Hajj. And myself and Brother Fachruddin have been working together on just really developing things. And I wanted to also mention something that happens in terms of, we've got Qurbani coming up. We've got the Eid al-Adha coming up in probably on the 21st of August. Can we go to, yeah. So after that, what happens, in terms of, this is just something I wanted to touch upon, which is Awqaf in New Zealand. And what they were saying was, in terms of, the Qurbani, what do we do? We need to make sure that we use the parts of the Qurbani that are unused, like the wool and the skin, and really be able to do things with that. So there are 50 million Muslims, just even in the Western world, and an estimated 5 million Eid sacrifices a year. But the wool and the skin, this isn't claimed. So these are things that we can think about. You can turn to the next page. Yeah, these are things that we can look at, and we can look at how we can use waqf as a way of really, utilizing this. So I think this is looking at waste and how we don't waste, and all the things that come out of the Hajj, and with the Qurbani and everything. So I just wanted to end by showing you a couple of other things that we've done. Islam and Water, which is about the story of Hajar, Radhiyallahu anha, and talking about Zamzam, and how she was an inspiration for all women, not just Muslim women, and a story of faith and action, and how important water for humanity is. And then, if you go on to the next page, it talks about the significance of Zamzam. It talks about the purity in Islam and water conservation around the world. I think it's something that is good for children particularly to look at. And I just want to say thank you and show you a picture of the Mecca Metro. I hope I've kept within my time. It was a bit of a whistle stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Husna. Alhamdulillah, this is very wonderful. I think we need to hear this. And myself, also, when I went to Hajj in early 2003, that was the shocking point in my life. I think, it's an ultimate journey for me, like everybody else, who perform Hajj, but also it's shocking because I saw a lot of waste and a lot of trash everywhere. So it's I think that's changed me after Hajj. It's I wanted to be an environmentalist. So that's the Hajj really changed me in my life. So with that, we would like to invite Brother Fachruddin Mangunjaya, that Dr. Husna already mentioned. She worked very closely with our Indonesian brothers and sisters in trying to implement this Green Hajj on the in reality. So, Brother Fachruddin, this is your floor now.
Thank you, Nana. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajmain. Amma ba'du, brother and sister, I hope you are enjoying this webinar. This is my first time to talk on a webinar on greening the Hajj. As we understand that Indonesia right now is going to sending the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, is about 220,000 people that will be going to Mecca. with two cluster 1 right now, and going to cluster 2 up to the end of August 15. So they are going now. We are very happy and make dua for them to success for the Hajj practice and the Ibadah Haji in Mecca. Next, Nana. As we understand that Indonesia is the largest, highest number of Hajj pilgrims around our Muslim countries. We are now sending 221,000. By first, this is the highest quota since 2011, and of course that so many queue in Indonesia up to now. Muslim Indonesia, because as you know, Indonesia is the Muslim largest population in the world. We have to queue for the Hajj up to 11 to 12 years, and in some areas, in some provinces, we have to wait up to 5 years for going to the Hajj. That is why it is very important for Indonesian to understand the situation that more than 2 million people in Saudi Arabia is not it is not an easy task for the government of Saudi Arabia, of course, to accommodate all the enthusiastic and the intention of the Hajj from Indonesia now on from all over the world for doing the pilgrimage. Next. As the world Umrah is increased by year, and also the Hajj intention to participate is also increased year by year. Indonesian send 1.2 million of Umrah per year, and 19 million Umrah all over the world in 2017. Last year, according to Saudi Arabia government notes that, of course, the holy city of Makkah is very very heavy with human disturbance, and all the facilities have to be built. And of course, the footprint of the Hajj and visiting of the city of Mecca, city is also very heavy. And Indonesia is number 1 sending of the pilgrimage. And of course, from the start, we are very concerned with Sister Husna when we have we are find out this initiative of bringing the Hajj. We are also very enthusiastic to conduct this kind of campaign in the Hajj participant. Next. This is the Hajj of Indonesia year by year since 9 years. This up and down, and after the reconstruction and enlarging of the Makkah construction, we are then back to original quota, which is 221,000 every years. Next. I think as I've been taught by Sister Husna, and also at the beginning, Nana is also telling you about the importance of the Hajj being a green and by action, not only during in Mecca but also during after the Hajj. We are challenged by this next slide. Of course, this have been yearly encountered by the government of Makkah. This is the from the municipality of Makkah said that more than 6 million kilogram or 6,000 tons of garbage are expected to be left behind by the pilgrim in the municipality. Of course, we want our Hajj not bring the problem, but minimize the consumption of plastic and everything that harm to the earth. Next, this is the Hajj season, and it is estimated if in Hajj participant is at the rate 1. Per capita solid waste 1.5 kilogram per day, a study said. Next, that is an evidence also in pilgrimage season, as Husna mentioned, that 1 million plastic bottles discharged by the pilgrim, and this is the condition in the holy city of Makkah during the Hajj. Garbage is everywhere, and it is also I think a disturbance from the side of the health and physical health of the Hajj participant themselves. Next, this is talking about the climate change, not only talking about the garbage, but also when we transporting ourselves from your country to Mecca, it means that you have to transport and you have to pollute the earth with your emissions. And this is the per capita emission, not including Indonesia. Indonesia is lower in per capita, but as you can imagine here, if you assume by country, in Muslim country, the highest per capita, it's mean at per person of CO2 emission from the Muslim countries, the highest is Qatar, which is more 5 times than per capita in the US. This is very important that the lifestyle of the Muslim country is also a big important to be attention, paying for the attention. Next, and this is quite an old survey. During the campaign, we doing a survey, a baseline awareness on 3 things. Water and plastic use, and also energy efficiency. I will tell you about water and plastic use. What is really the Indonesian pilgrimage candidate during the staying in the dormitory, and what is their perception about water and plastic use during in the Saudi Arabia? It's one thing I will tell you. One about the raw accounting of emission. The raw counting of emission, of course, from Jakarta to Saudi Arabia back and forth, and you can imagine how far is maybe about 8 hours or 10 hours from Jakarta by airplane. So by stopping and using that airplane, we count the number of the emission roughly. Next. By counting that Jakarta, Jeddah, the emission individual is about 2.83 ton CO2, and if you count by the pilgrimage in this 2018, the emission will be 625,000 ton CO2 will be combusted will be emitted to the atmosphere, to the earth. The transportation could become from the airplane, the bus, and also all over the world, not only in Indonesia, but this is an Indonesia example for counting. We have 221,000 Hajj that we have to responsible for 5,000 ton of CO2 emission. Next. So this is the potential. As actually we have a dream, want to offset this metric ton that polluted the air. For example, if we have to offset the carbon, we have to plant like 40,000 hectares of new forests in 1 year. So estimated here for 1 year, so we need 50% to absorb 150 ton CO2. So we have to plant the trees. And by that we neutralize. This is the issue of the carbon neutral, to reduce our footprint. As Nana said at the beginning of this webinar, it is very important to neutralize. And as Sister Husna also say about the balance, this is the responsible, how we can balance the life, how then we can we assume we can sink the emission of the CO2 that might causes the climate change. Next. By replacing the carbon emission with assuming planting trees, we can also use this carbon emission by replacing that with sustainable energy initiative, for example. This isn't only an idea. If we have 221,000 pilgrims, we can collect, for example, if one person can we assume replacing 200,000, we can collect 55 US dollars per person. So we can have a potential kind of funding to purchase the wind energy and maybe solar panel. So by that we can have a program for the greening our masjid, greening our madrasa, greening our pesantren, by replacing that with this funding of offsetting the carbon of the Hajj. Next. This is the attitude of water. When we conducting the exhibition last 2 years, last three years in Jakarta, we asking about the attitude and the intention of the Jamaah or the participant during the staying in the dormitory. There are 5,000 of them, so we are only sampling by this 250 person to fulfilling the questionnaire. And when we are asking, when you are in Mecca or Medina and using water, what will you do? They said they will use the water sustainably, 61%. So this figure is showing that can you type now? Next, I think they have, yeah. Their attitude is also very good in bring my tumbler and If you choose tumbler, why? And more practical, why if they are using buying water packets, because it is more practical, they said. If when we ask why bring tumbler, because it is cheaper. So by awareness, actually, in attitude of using by bringing tumbler and plastic use avoid this. Generally, the participant from Indonesia is aware about the using plastic and also avoiding of throwing plastic. Next, this is also the attitude of shopping. So 49% of them, they prefer to bring their own bag. This is actually their intention actually to change, and only 30% is using the plastic. This is why by their attention. But in practicalities, we are not controlling of their practical attitude, because the intention to change can be influenced by the one is the alternative, the second the easiness, the third maybe the economic things, and the chance also time maybe, and everything that can be benefit for the using, for the person to act and to change. Next, yeah, one thing we make a progress is we have translated the guidebook by Husna in Bahasa Indonesia, and also make that available in bilingual English and Indonesia in a smart transponder, in smartphone like this. So we can install the Google Play, the Google Play store. You can use that. This not only your knowledge about the green Hajj will be increased, but also your knowledge in practicalities of the Hajj, such as dua and everything integrated inside. The will be available in English as well. So we hope this application can also be translated to other languages. We would like please another countries can use this and can contact us freely. Next. Yeah, as far we are in Indonesia making an initiative, the only way we have to we are working is not only approaching the government, but also we are approaching the Hajj travel agent. So this kind of awareness for travel agent voluntarily being practiced. So they're sending every day travel agent. We working together with the travel agent by providing the Hajj campaign bag, travel bag, and also the tumbler. This is very important. If they have tumbler, they can just tap the water, jam with this. You can find everywhere in the Masjid Al-Haram, in every corner in Medina as well. So you can use it and bring the tumbler for the equipment for the Hajj, during the Hajj. Next, this is the last. So according to our study and experience in campaigning of this Hajj, during the Hajj, it is a must that government or Hajj committee should provide the Hajj participant the environmentally practice tool. For example, timber, cycle bag, energy saving awareness, etc., etc. And also the Green Hut can be a platform for working together in the environment, in planting trees, and also greening your masjid, eco school, renewable energy, and etc. etc. Like in Indonesia, so many pesantren that many of them own big land that we can plant them to help them to plant the trees that can be offset the carbon of Hajj. And also, it is necessary for government policy in providing briefing on Green Hajj awareness um, and also but whether uh, to uh, to recruit the agent, the travel agent, to use that awareness obligatory or voluntary. It's also need to make the policy of incentive and disincentive to support sustainable green travel Hajj and Umrah in travel permit and certification. I think that is all of my presentation. I hope it is useful for the dialogue. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Brother Fachruddin, for sharing that. And yes, I mean, like, that's very important. And then Indonesia is doing a lot of this, trying to implement this Green Hajj on their Hajj contingents the last few years. And also with the Green Hajj apps, I actually downloaded in my cell phone, and just a few days ago I was giving that Green Hajj like brief in some of the pilgrims here in Southern California, and also ask them to download the Green Hajj so that they can practice it while they're in Hajj. So talking about that, we would like to hear from our brother here, so our brother who's going to Hajj in a very few weeks, Brother Saffet Catovic in New Jersey. What is his preparation and his family trying to implement Green Hajj on this journey? Brother Saffet, please share with us what is the plan.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Walaikum salam warahmatullah.
Okay. Thank you very much, sister. And wonderful to be with all of you here today. Inshallah, share a couple things. I am talking to you. I don't know if I have a video screen or not. If the video
Yes,
is
you
on?
do. Yes, it's on.
Oh, okay, alhamdulillah. I just wanted to give my warmest regards to all of our brothers and sisters who are doing tremendous work in this area of greening Muslim practices, especially as it affects our ibadat, our acts of worship.
Brother Saffet, we cannot hear you.
Hajj.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. One of the primary ones is the idea of Hajj. Unfortunately, I'm on a mobile device and I have some challenges here. I'm actually not speaking to you from New Jersey. I'm speaking to you from Mount Pocono in the Poconos, where I am working as the Jamboree director for Muslim Scouts Jamboree. Alhamdulillah, we have over 300 scouts here in Mount Pocono in the Pennsylvania mountains, spending a week getting closer to Allah's signs in a very real and tangible way, and also putting into practice principles of conservation with regard to their practices in terms of their faith, but also in terms of their eating habits, etc. So we have, alhamdulillah, over 300 scouts across the Muslim scouts from across the United States, and we have also a contingent of the Saudi scouts who are very much helpful as guides during the Hajj, and we look forward to seeing them there. So greetings from Mount Pocono, Pennsylvania, the second Muslim Scouts Jamboree. Let me share a couple of thoughts and ideas as we prepare for the Hajj. I'm going, alhamdulillah, first time in my lifetime to go on Hajj. I've been to Umrah several times with my wife and my sisters. And inshallah, one of our intentions, of course, is to make this Hajj as green as possible. And we appreciate the great work that has already been done in providing general direction and guidance in the Green Hajj Guide, which was spoken about before. And also, I will be looking into, in a very practical way, since I will obviously have my cell phone with me when I'm there, how the Green Hajj application online that Dr. Fachruddin and his team and our sister have worked on together will be able to be of use for us when we're on the Hajj. Couple of points. Intending to go to Hajj, of course, we revisit the issues of fiqh and Islamic jurisprudence as they apply to Hajj. And one of the things that struck me was the importance of not violating the Hajj by even the most simple act of removing a living thing, removing a blade of grass from the areas of the sacred precincts. And I think that that idea of the importance of life, not necessarily only human life, but actually all life, is something that's going through my mind as we prepare for the Hajj. Also, in order to get there, we go on many modes of transport. The mode of transport these days is, of course, through the airplanes. And what we made the intention to do was to put into practice the idea of offsetting the carbon emissions of our transportation to the Hajj and utilizing that as a carbon offset through the planting of trees. And there's various calculators that are available online. They take into consideration the type of jet or transportation that is being used, obviously where you're going to and returning from. From our location in New York City, where we'll be departing, the round trip is approximately 20,000 kilometers. And according to the carbon emission calculator, it will result in, we're going via Cairo to Jeddah and coming back again, it will result in about just under 4 tons of carbon emissions. So with that in mind, we personally made a decision as a family that we will offset that by the planting of trees in the rainforest in South America, specifically in Costa Rica. There are a lot of ways in which we can offset our carbon emissions, but we need to find ways in which we feel comfortable with and that they are efficient and effective. So this seems to be a program that is one that we're looking to implement, and the planting of trees to offset that. There are other ways in which the offsets that Dr. Fachruddin mentioned can be taken care of, including, for example, working on issues of solar panel installations, or in cases of within Africa, of providing solar stoves to many of the folks there, so they do not have to engage in utilizing noxious fuel substances that will cause harm, as well as, of course, pollute the environment as a whole. We've made the intention that, and I specifically, as the male wears the ihram, the 2 sheets of clothing, symbolic of some of the clothing, unstitched clothing that we will wear on our final journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the afterlife through our janazah. I made the intention, and collectively we made the intention, that we will try to utilize the clothing that is locally produced, and therefore, since we're stopping by Egypt on the way, our intention is to use Egyptian cotton for our ihram, specifically in the case of myself as the male member of our family team that's going. And that is locally produced within Egypt, so we're looking forward to implementing that with the mindset that we're using something that has been produced by Muslim hands in a local area versus bringing something from another part of the world that is very far away, transported here to America. And even in the ihram that I'm wearing, we're trying to be conscious of our green responsibilities. Upon arrival for the Hajj and for the pilgrimage, As you know, most of the rites take place, of the monastic of the Hajj take place in approximately a 3-mile area from Arafat, Mina, and Muzdalifah, and the Kaaba, not far from that. Our intention while we're there, although we have been told by our travel agent, and we have to remember we live in a day where we speak about Hajj packages, not being these wonderful packages that our brother Fachruddin and the Green Hajj people are carrying from Indonesia, but Hajj packages as being deluxe, extra deluxe, super deluxe, etc. And the selling point on these, of course, is you will never have to walk. We will provide you transportation, buses, limos, etc. You will be able to enjoy every single day, eating as much as you want, an open buffet in these wonderful, luxurious hotels that are just within walking distance of the Haram, and so on and so forth. Basically, the selling packages, especially for us here within the Western world, maybe because of the general affluence that is perceived, is to make things as easy as possible, in parentheses, as expensive and costly for the environment as possible. And I think we've made a commitment as a family to say, you know what, with all due respect to our travel agent and those who have arranged the Hajj for us and our guides, we're going to walk the entire time that we're there, especially for the monastic rites. It's not far walking 3 miles, and it's something that we can do. And it's also healthy for us. We've also made the intention, and we purchased our water bottles, our reusable water bottles, non-BPU, of course, with a little filter in, so we can utilize all of the various water stations that have been set up by the Saudi government for the Hajjis, or for their convenience, to be able to utilize our own water bottles. And I've already tried it out on how I can carry it on my belt, which I am going to wrap around my body to hold the money, and so on and so forth. So I've already experimented with that. So I'll be able to carry it quite comfortably under my ihram. Let me see. Not much of what is available in Saudi Arabia is actually grown or produced within Saudi Arabia. It is imported. People often bring me gifts back when they come from Hajj to our family, as is a tradition to bring back something to your family and friends, whether it be the misbah, or whether it be prayer rugs or other types of things. When I look on where it is made, it's not made in Saudi Arabia. And the same holds true for a lot of the food. But one of the things we know for sure is made in Saudi Arabia is dates. And so we've made an intention more or less to adopt a date diet. We're not going to go to the open buffet in the hotels. We're going to adopt a date diet, maybe with some other foods as well, of dates that are locally grown. Many of these actually come from the precincts of Medina and have the blessings that are associated with being in the proximity of the Prophet ﷺ's presence, and within the proximity of that blessed city of Masjid al-Nabi, the city of lights. Couple other brief reflections. The various rites of the Hajj, we're reflecting upon how we collectively as a family can make them more eco-conscious and eco-friendly. And one of the things that we have been thinking about, and I've spoken with Nana about this before, is that we have many shayateen that I personally have many shayateen that I intend to take out, inshallah, symbolically by throwing of the stones at the Jamarat. But one of those shayateen is definitely going to be the idea, the concept, and the practice of overconsumption, which is the driver of one of the main drivers of waste. For the mubadireen are the brothers, the wasters are the brothers of the shayateen. So I'm very much intending, and I've shared this with my wife and my sisters, that we will engage in stoning amongst the very devils that we have to face within our lives, that we want to remove from within ourselves, and their whisperings from within ourselves, by symbolically stoning the Jamarat in the footsteps of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, is to stone the Jamarats of overconsumption of waste. And we're thinking about also various ways in which we will reflect consciously on our Hajj practices. One of the things, of course, which we will try to do as much as possible on the Hajj is to engage in the daily salawat, in the daily prayers that are carried out at both the Haram Sharif and when we visit the Prophet ﷺ in Medina. And that is to implement the 2 cups of water wudu policy. We are a 2 cup of water ummah in terms of wudu, not more, and we need to implement that. And so very much the intention is to make sure that despite the abundance of water in the hotel areas, etc., we will always implement the idea of a 2 cup wudu practice and be conscious of that as we do it. I do have some concerns also about the Hajj with regard to the sacrifice and the dhabiha. I'm not comfortable still with the way it is put into practice according to the eyewitnesses who have witnessed it. I know it's a very difficult thing for many animals to be sacrificed, and I'm looking forward for the Muslim scholars to begin to think of new and innovative ways by which this practice can be implemented in a more humane, more eco-friendly way, and at the same time fulfill the obligations and the rights within our faith. I'm exploring something in conversation with others, but we will see. Finally, let me say, from Mount Pocono, Pennsylvania, Pocono Summit Muslim Scouts Jamboree, it's wonderful to be here. I'm looking forward to visiting Baytullah in Mecca, but it's wonderful also to be here in Allah's great masjid, which is Al-Ard Kullaha Masjidah. And our intention overall, if I could put it in a nutshell during this Hajj, is to try to ensure that we keep Allah's masjid clean, whether it's here in the natural setting in the Poconos, or whether it is in front of his house in the Kaaba, or whether it is in the presence of our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Madinatul Munawwarah, to make every effort to ensure that every step we take will be one in which we protect the earth, in which we keep it clean, so that we may be those who will be able to truly say, Allahumma ja'alna min at-tawabin wa ja'alna min al-mutatahhirin. We are the ones who make repentance to God for our mistakes, and we are the ones who will purify ourselves and keep ourselves clean and keep the world around us clean and not polluted. Thank you for allowing me to share with all of you. And if you don't mind, I will try to give you a quick look. I'm not good with technology, of some of the folks that are here. Assalamu alaikum. How's it going, guys? MashaAllah. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Wonderful. Walaikum assalam. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Brother Saffet, on that. And yes, thank you for mentioning this ayat also about, not to be wasters, that we need to keep this in mind in everyday lives, not just on Hajj, but also in our everyday life, that the mubazirin are the brethren of Shaitan, and we need to keep that, like this is my, also like personally, like, my reminder all the time, this ayat every time I'm going to waste something, so that, because nobody wants to be the brother of Satan or the sister of Satan. So with that, thank you. I thank all my panelists, and because we don't have enough time, so I'm not going to go for the Q&A. But I think, like, this is the first Green Hajj webinar, so there's a lot of improvement and a lot of conversation need to be taken after this, and more discussion, and we can always improve a lot of our Hajj practice, and inshallah, like more sustainable in the future. And just before closing, I would like to share this. The Saudi government is actually hosting the largest hackathon, Hajj hackathon in the Middle East, and it's open for all those UIT folks and innovators and developers and designer in the Middle East and North Africa to have a challenge on these issues on screen, like the food and beverage, transportation, crowd control, public health, housing, waste management, and so on. It's already starting today, so please go to the website, and this is like one of the also like I think like the chance to improve and to streamline the process of Hajj in the future. So for those of you, and I hope like for next year they open this for all the Muslim world, not just to the Middle East and North Africa region. So with that, you know, I would like to thank once again to all my panelists, and I pray and we pray that Allah will reward us on our effort and accept all our way and, you know, like struggles in trying to live in a sustainable way. And at the same time, we're trying to also practice the tradition of our Prophet while we're trying to protect the earth and all our creation. And billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.